Alright guys, so I just watched MetalJesus Rocks' new video on Kickstarter, in which he was asked what his opinion was on Kickstarter and Shenmue III, and he talks about that and the website in general. And really frustratingly, he was talking out of his arse, and so was his friend that he was with. They were repeating false information that's come out in the media about Shenmue III, about the Kickstarter, primarily that of Sony's financial involvement. Now, they are only putting money into the marketing. That was in return for console exclusivity on this game. They are not putting a penny into development of this game. Crucially, that's what the Kickstarter is for, is to fund the actual creation of this game to make it as good as it possibly can be. Sony's putting money into the marketing and I think converting the PC version onto PS4, but it's nothing to do with creation of the game, and that's why it's crucial that people are backing that Kickstarter. So it's frustrating that information like that and misguided opinions have been put out there on the larger kind of channels and out in the wider media, and I think it's putting some people off backing this Kickstarter. It's important to note that Sony are not putting money into development of this game. That's been made clear. Yeah, and he also again puts out this false information about the costs of the initial game, and then tying that in to creation of this game as if you can make that comparison. You really cannot. Okay, let's put this into perspective. There's a list of points here that I want to go through, so if you're someone who's thinking there's no way this game is going to be created to the same standard for the level of funding that they're kind of hovering around on the Kickstarter. If you're thinking that, listen to these points, okay? So, because this is something that MetalJesus Rocks spoke of, and he was critical of this game's chances of being what fans want it to be, based on the amount of funding that he says it's going to need. Okay, so he was saying that the original cost 40 million. They were saying that just the first game alone, Shenmue 1, cost $40 million to produce. It's not true. Let's go through this list. Okay. It cost 47 million for Shenmue 1, Shenmue 2 and the original Saturn versions all together. The combined price of creating those games, 47 million, right? Shenmue 1 and 2 costs went into developing an engine for that game. Well, with Shenmue 3, you've already got an engine there created, so that's free. Unreal Engine is free to use. So Shenmue 1 and 2, parts of those costs were developing an engine. Shenmue 3, you've already got a free engine there ready made. For Shenmue 1 and 2, lots of costs went into the marketing. Okay, so that 47 million includes the marketing for that game. But for Shenmue 3, Sony's going to help out a little bit. The marketing's pretty much done already. The target audience is very much aware that game's coming out. It's not going to be anywhere near that, and Sony are helping fund marketing. Next point. Shenmue 1 and 2 costs in performance tuning, and a lot of testing went into making the game run well on Dreamcast on very limited hardware. So a lot of the money in the first original games were having to test that game, make sure it runs on Dreamcast hardware. It pushes it to its limits. Shenmue 2 does have slowdown. That game had to be fine-tuned to run on the system it was coming out on. But for Shenmue 3, there's no prototype needed. And it's not going to cost as much to fine-tune it. You know the console is going to be powerful enough to run it. You're not going to be stretching the PS4 to run this game. Okay, for Shenmue 1 and 2, there were many interactive features that were new and costly to develop, as most of them had never been done before. So it was breaking boundaries, it was doing new things. These days technology is caught up very much so. Shenmue 3 is going to be a lot cheaper to produce for lots of different reasons. So there's other reasons as well, but yeah, this game can be very, very good on a relatively low budget. So it's just really frustrating to see MetalJesus Rocks knocking this game's chances of being what it wants to be, and knocking the validity of it even going through Kickstarter, because let me say this again, Sony are not helping to create this game. That's why the Kickstarter is important. Now, it got even more frustrating further into the video, because they then went on to say positive things about Kickstarter. After having slated Shenmue's Kickstarter, they went on to say positive things and used examples that apply to Shenmue. For example, MetalJesus Rocks said that he loves it when games get made that would never otherwise have had a chance to make. He said there were some old school style RPGs that were funded through Kickstarter that he says would never have had a chance to be made if it weren't for Kickstarter. That's the same with Shenmue 3. This game would never have been made without this fan passion in this Kickstarter. It wouldn't have happened. Sega wasn't going to put the money into it. They had the license, nobody else could make it. Sega have allowed Yu Suzuki to go off and do it because Yu Suzuki is a god for that company. So they've said, give him free rein and says, yes, here, do what you want with this license. We owe you everything, Yu Suzuki. Do what you want with the game. They weren't going to fund it. It was a financial risk. It lost some hell of a lot of money back in the day. There wasn't the evidence that there was a large enough fan base for this game to be made. So Sega have lost their way anyway recently. Even if they were on top of the game, they probably wouldn't have been making this game. It wouldn't have been made without this fan passion, without this Kickstarter. So the argument, so the positive point that MetalJesus Rocks was making about those old school RPGs also applies to Shenmue 3. Okay, and it's even more than that though. This is a continuation of a story, and it was never going to be done. It was left on a cliffhanger. So those people that did love that game and did invest in it were left on a cliffhanger. This is a continuation of a story. It's not just another version of a game engine that you've already enjoyed in the past, like Mighty No. 9, which is one of the games that they were positive about. MetalJesus Rocks' friend there said that he likes games like Mighty No. 9 going through. Now what was the thing he said that about? Oh yeah, he said because it's been done by a director that you know will do justice to the game. That applies to Shenmue 3 as well. Yu Suzuki. Do I need to say anything more? I don't think so. So that was really frustrating, MetalJesus. I've got to tell you. You made positive points about other games that actually applied to Shenmue 3, whilst you slated Shenmue 3's Kickstarter for completely invalid reasons. Mainly the funding. It's not coming from Sony, not for the development of the game, and that's crucial. Yes, they're picking up the marketing tab, but that's in exchange for console exclusivity. So it's not like they're not making anything out of that decision to help fund marketing. So really annoying, because he's one of the big channels on YouTube, and some of the other big channels as well have been putting out this false information and putting out just damaging opinions really. They have a big audience and they're slating this game's chance, slating this game, giving, hurting its chances of being funded to the level that it could do. So I just had to say that. I probably could go on and on about it. It was a frustrating video, MetalJesus, come on. I thought you'd have been better than this. I thought you'd done a little bit more research by now, because the claims that you're making in that video have been debunked weeks ago. So it's really frustrating that you've chosen to make a video on this and yet not done any research at all, not kept up to date with what's been happening, and putting out negativity on it based on your hunch. You said, what was it you said near the start of it? Oh, he says, oh, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer, this game. It would have been made anyways. Sony would have funded it. How? What, are they going to buy the license from Sega? No, Sega have given the license to Yu Suzuki because he is their god. And they've said, do what you want, but we ain't funding it. So he's had to go through Kickstarter. He's had to go to the fans, because nobody else is going to take a risk on this game. It did lose a lot of money when it came out back in the day, but we've talked about the reasons that might have been. Limited spread of audience in the first place, a difficult sell ahead of its time, you need a bit of patience, a slower paced game, all those reasons. But there's a reason that there's a very, very vociferous fan base for this game. It's because it's a magical gaming experience, and it's a story that was left on a cliffhanger. It would not have been picked up by anybody else without this fan passion and Kickstarter support. So yeah, sorry MetalJesus, you're talking out your ass on this one. It's quite a frustrating vid, because we're in the last few days of the Kickstarter now, and we need that final push just to get to that 5 million, which is where Yu Suzuki says he'll be able to do something that he really wants to do with this game. So I think that's the character perspective system again. You can watch my previous videos if you want more information on this, more Shenmue related content. Hope it's not ending here, but come on, let's do it. Back to Kickstarter. MetalJesus, disappointing.